I now call up H.R. 3494, the VA Hospital Inventory Management Systems Authorization Act. The clerk shall report the bill.
H.R. 34.
Text was circulated in advance and pursuant to committee rules without objection. The first reading is dispensed with, and the bill is now open for amendment at any point. I now recognize Representative Kiggins for the purposes of offering an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm especially grateful that my bill, the VA
Do you have an amendment at the desk?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have an amendment? I have an amendment.
You have an amendment at the desk. The clerk shall report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R.
I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the amendment in the nature of a substitute be dispensed with, and I ask that it be considered as a base text for the purpose of this markup, and without objection so ordered. I now recognize Representative Kiggins for 5 minutes to speak in support of the amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My amendment in the nature of a substitute would add an offset for the discretionary funding. This effort of the VA would help maintain and modernize the VA medical facilities, medical equipment, and continue to provide care for our veterans. I urge my colleagues to support my amendment in the nature of a substitute, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. I now recognize myself in support of the amendment. This is a common sense, straightforward bill to fix the real problem VA hospitals. For too long, outdated inventory systems have wasted taxpayer dollars and hindered providers' ability to perform their jobs efficiently and effectively. When you can't track your resources, you get waste, shortages, and veterans pay the price. That's unacceptable. This bill would force VA to modernize so that we can ensure every dollar is spent responsibly. Better oversight means better care for veterans and more accountability for taxpayers, precisely what we should expect from VA, and I urge my colleagues to support this bill to get that done. Do any other members wish to comment on the amendment in the nature of a substitute for H.R. 3494? Seeing none. Are there any amendments in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3494? I now recognize Representative Budzinski to offer an amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk shall report the amendment.
Budzinski, amendment number 1.
I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the amendment be dispensed with, and without objection so ordered. The gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The VA's supply chain program is certainly enormous and one that definitely deserves a modern approach. VA has told us that they plan to restart this program for at least the 5th time. But as far as I can tell, VA has not done the work needed to make implementation efficient and effective. My amendment requires VA to conduct thorough analysis and brief the committees of jurisdiction before moving forward with modernization efforts for the supply chain program. This includes requirements to finalize a supply chain strategy, assess personnel, create a cost estimate and schedule, develop metrics to measure success, and conduct an after action on VA's previous failed attempts at supply chain modernization. Once these steps are done, VA will be able to move forward with its supply chain modernization effort. I am certainly not advocating in this situation for status quo. I want to be clear about that. And to those that might be thinking that, I pose this question back to them. What about VA's current state makes you 100% confident that they are prepared to step forward with this? If they have not looked at past failures, addressed the impacts of VA's reorganization, or developed success metrics for the modernization effort. Without an assessment of each of these, we are essentially allowing the VA to throw more money at the problem to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in the hope that they take the right approach. I hope I'm not alone in my concern with this logic. I urge my colleagues to vote aye on my amendment, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back, and I recognize myself in opposition to the amendment. VA has spent years trying and failing to modernize its inventory management system. This committee has spent hundreds of hours conducting oversight over these past failures, and it's time that this committee asserted the authorization, the authorized an authority to stop being a bystander to modernization project. Last year, the Supreme Court Loper decision made it clear it is Congress's, not agencies, that set the policy. This amendment would punt that responsibility to VA by requiring reporting that would delay the implementation implementation of this bill. This amendment would also require reports on topics that have nothing to do with inventory management, like the deferred registration program and the voluntary early retirement authority. I urge my colleagues to reject the amendment and not use reporting as a tool to deflect the committee's responsibility to set policy for VA. Does any other member wish to comment on the amendment? Seeing none. The question now occurs on agreeing to the Budzinski amendment and to the amendment in the nature of a substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it,
Mr.
and the
Chair,
amendment is not agreed to.
Request a roll call.
A recorded vote having been requested pursuant to committee rules, this vote will be postponed. Are there further amendments to the amendment in the nature of substitute for H.R. 3494? I now recognize Representative Ramirez to offer an amendment in the nature of substitute.
Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk shall report the amendment.
Ramirez
I
Amendment
ask
number,
unanimous consent that further reading of the amendment is dispensed with without objection. So ordered. The gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes to explain the amendment.
Chairman, thank you. This is an amendment that I have been anxious to present to you in the last hour, as you witnessed a few moments ago. But this amendment is really important. It would bar VA from contracting with any company with which a special government employee has a financial interest. Over the past several months, we have witnessed the rampant corruption of individuals that are involved with DOGE. These individuals were given access to your sensitive information, veterans, made reckless decisions across the agency, and put thousands of people at risk. This kind of rogue behavior is appalling and should concern every American taxpayer and every member of Congress. While Elon Musk is no longer a special government employee, thank God for that, he was, however, allowed to wreak havoc within the federal government for nearly 5 entire months. In a clear conflict of interest, he was allowed to become a special government employee despite building his empire on $38 billion in taxpayer funding through government contracts. However, my colleagues across the aisle are apparently willfully uninformed to conflicts of interest, possibly because they don't want to draw attention to their own, even though they claim to care about accountability and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. The richest man on earth was able to infiltrate our government and still stands to make billions of dollars more as he and his DOGE colleagues dismantle institutions intended to serve the American people. While some of my colleagues feel comfortable allowing this kind of outright corruption to happen at the expense of our veterans, I will not allow that to happen. I refuse to be complicit in a scheme that further enriches the 1% at the expense of veterans and taxpayers who are barely making it, while this guy's trying to figure out what island next he wants to buy. Let me say this loud and clear. To Elon Musk and to the rest of the DOGE jesters, VA is not for sale. Our veterans and their data is not for sale. It is our responsibility to make sure that Elon Musk, the special government employees he's brought in to destroy the government, and any future special government employees do not have the opportunity to turn the VA into another business they ultimately will run into the ground. I urge all my colleagues to support my amendment, and I passionately yield back.
The gentlelady yields back, and I recognize myself in opposition to the amendment. Let me be clear, the amendment is unnecessary and misguided. There are federal ethics laws, regulations that prohibit government employees, including special government employees, from using their government position for financial gain. The idea that VA needs special rules is based on nothing and is distraction from VA's mission and the work we do here in Congress. We should focus on the job at hand, delivering for veterans, not chasing false narratives or creating problems that don't exist. I urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment. And does any other member wish to comment on the Ramirez amendment? Somebody did, I guess. Ranking member.
Mr. Chairman, the assertion that these, the concerns that have been raised by Ms. Ramirez and her amendment, that they emanate from false narratives, use of the word false narratives, this is patently untrue. We have witnessed unprecedented actions by a special government employee in the name of Elon Musk, and I think clarifying in statute, what the ethical obligations are of contractors is very important. Anyway, that is, I support Ms. Ramirez's amendment, and I yield back.
Anyone else seeking recognition? Seeing none. The question now occurs on agreeing to Ramirez amendment to the amendment in nature of a substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment
Mr.
is not
Chairman,
agreed to.
I'd like a recorded
vote has been requested, and pursuant to committee rules, the vote will be postponed. Without objection, the motion to never mind, we jumped one. Okay, there we are. Are there any further amendments to the amendment in the nature of substitute to H.R. 3494? Seeing none and hearing none, the question that we will go in order to the next bill,